Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to welcome everyone to this Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, April 10th. I'm going to open the meeting at 7:30. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Fenton? Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Kucera?
Here.
Mr. McHale?
Here.
Ms. Prowse?
Here.
Ms. Scripture? Here. Mr. Shepard? Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, before we move on to the agenda, technically we made a couple slight alterations to the agenda after it was published, so it would be appropriate for the commission to approve the amended agenda as the agenda for tonight. Those two things were the addition of consideration of the TCO for 1330 North Crooks and the addition of the potential or discussion of the potential change to the site plan for landscape plan for 59 Florence. Those were in the email out agenda.
Okay. Anyone have any problems or questions about that? No. Okay, well, we'll go with the amended agenda then. Item number 4 is approval of the regular minute meetings from March 27th.
I have some changes on that
Okay, can we?
request. I would like to amend a section in there. This would be the first, second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph down. It currently states, Board Member McHale commented that the sample bond is too vague. I'd like to amend that, and I do have a copy of this that I can give the record. Board Member McHale asked if the document enclosed in our packets from Western Surety Company was a sample or a bona fide document, which was issued for Keyport Capital LLC. It was confirmed to be a legally submitted document. After reading the submitted surety bond document for Keyport Capital LLC aloud, Board Member McHale commented that the document was incomplete, citing some key areas not filled in or incomplete. Board Member Scripture's comments were not changed in that same paragraph. And going to the second from the last paragraph, where it has reference to Mr. Elliott explained that there are key items that should be included that is not included on the sample provided. Sample should be out, and the Western Surety Company document should be inserted in there.
Motion.
I'm
He
still going
moved
to need a
it.
motion to approve. You want to?
I will make the motion to make these amendments to the meeting minutes
I second.
of March
27th.
27th,
I'll second.
I have a motion.
2018.
I have a motion. I have support. Any other comments, questions, changes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Item agenda number 5 is a presentation by the New Oakland Family Centers regarding proposed use for 1145 West Maple Road, currently the Super 8 Motel.
So before they come up, I'll just introduce the concept to you. This group approached us administratively a few weeks back with what we thought was an interesting concept for a reuse of the Super 8 Motel, which is currently for sale. And they'll explain it better than I can, but it was sort of a mixed occupancy. One of the occupancies really be office use and would be allowed by right in the BRD2 zoning district. The other, I'll let them explain to you, but as we would interpret it, it could be allowed as a special land use, as we have some other uses in the past in BRD2 pursuant to your ability to approve other similar uses in the district. And so they're going to explain their concept to you. I think they had a handout for you tonight as well, that obviously you're just seeing for the first time. But they're going to explain that to you, and then they're hoping to get some feedback from you as to whether you think it's something worth pursuing or not, given that, as I say, ultimately as a special land use, it would be your interpretation as to whether or not it would be a use that would be similar to those uses that are allowed in the BRD2 district. Keeping in mind, I would say that the current use, the motel use, actually is allowed in there as I think it's a special use. I don't recall off the top of my head. But it is allowed use. That district was crafted, contemplating that sort of a use as sort of accessory to or supportive of, as better term, the business uses in the district. So with that, the folks from New Oakland Family Centers are here, and I'll let them do their presentation.
At this point, the building hasn't been purchased, we're just
Correct.
looking at theory.
They would be an interested potential purchaser.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Sendy, and I'm here with my colleagues, who are also my brothers, Kevin Sendy, who is our president, and Jeff Sendy, who is our chief medical officer. And I'm going to be referring to the spiral-bound document that was passed out. And I want to say, first off, how grateful we are for the time to share a little bit, not just about our vision for the property, which we'll get to, but also a little bit of our vision for our organization. And that always starts with the photos on the very first slide. These are photos of my dad, who passed away a couple of years ago. But my dad was our founder, and New Oakland was established in 1990. This is old dad, and this is groovier dad on the right with my two brothers. I'm actually the one taking the picture. But what he founded was what has grown to be the largest private behavioral health organization in Michigan. We have 9 facilities, going on 10 facilities in southeast Michigan, as far west as Lansing, as far north as Flint, as far south as Southgate, and we're really all across the Metro Detroit area, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties. And if you can move to the next page, we represent 17 physicians, psychiatrists mostly, more than 100 therapists, more than 200 employees, and we provide a continuum of mental health services. And the kinds of mental health services are delivered, if you move to the next slide, at these locations. It shows our map and the addresses and phone numbers of where we are. And the next shows, although it doesn't print particularly well, the photos of each of our facilities across the area. And the kind of services that we provide really roll up to part of what was my dad's philosophy about delivering the right care at the right time. Most families at one point or another, and this is true of our family, and it is true of almost all families, require behavioral health or mental health services of some kind, counseling, more intensive services, whatever it may be. And we've really taken it as our vision to provide those services in a way that allow very, very timely and very flexible and customized care to what people really need. My dad believed very strongly in not treating every person like a nail just because all you have is a hammer. And a lot of organizations in behavioral health just have a hammer, whatever that may be. We try to provide a continuum of services, and that continuum, if you move to the next slide, includes things like family therapy, counseling, individual counseling, group therapy, psychiatric care. We have the biggest team of psychiatrists of any non-hospital organization in Michigan. And these are all things you might be familiar with, right? You all know how counseling works and how therapy works. But the use that we have in mind for 1145 West Maple is really something that brings together all those services. And it's what we call our partial day program, or our PHP day program. And this is a full day for individuals who need a higher level of care of all those services combined, including physical health services, nursing care, medication review, counseling of various kinds. And the entire first floor of our vision for 1145 West Maple is to do what we do at all of our centers, almost all of our centers, which is provide a school-like or an office-like environment for delivery of these services, the entire bundle at once. And these, this continues for most individuals for 1 to 2 weeks, 5 to 10 days. But we're also envisioning for the second and third floors of 1145 West Maple, the Super 8 facility, a short-term residential option as well. That is to say, individuals who travel long distances or need a stable environment to reconnect with their family, or have no safe home environment to return to at the end of a day of services and treatment, or who would benefit from supervision away from home, or who would benefit, yes, sir.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, and I apologize. Short-term meaning what? What constitutes short-term in your opinion?
It's 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's 1 to 2 weeks. It is definitely not a long-term kind of care situation, and these are the kinds of parameters that we'd be willing and able to specify in advance if the board felt that it was important for us to create a limit, for instance, of 2 weeks or 10 days or something like that.
Okay.
And these are historically our lengths of stay as they are across our 9 sites right now.
So you have similar facilities at your other sites, similar longer to
This
short-term residential facilities.
This program operates in our 9 sites presently. The overnight component would be a new add-on, but our lengths of stay are 5 to 10 days at our existing sites now.
So when individuals need the residential piece today, we typically work with local motels in the area to provide that. This would be a facility that would be essentially owned and operated by us.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
If I can call your attention to this slide with the 2 circles, this essentially expresses our vision or our thoughts about why this is a good idea and a permissible idea under BRD2 zoning. Because it brings together 2 appropriate and approved, or at least subject to approval, purposes in kind of one facility. On the left, it is a standard medical office use, and the ring on the right represents what amounts to its current use, repurposed in a different way, and it's combining those 2 into a single facility. What will this facility be with your approval? I'll start with the things on the right first. It will be a very innovative new kind of behavioral health facility. It will be voluntary, not involuntary. Nobody will be committed to this facility. It will be a 7 to 14-day residential facility. As far as safety is concerned, it will be closed to visitors after hours and only open to visitors, approved visitors during the day, so it will not be a highly trafficked sort of in and out kind of situation. It will be staffed round the clock with both clinical and security staff to make sure that safety is paramount. And then obviously it's going to be deeply committed to this community and our footprint and our yes, sir.
What does that mean when you say deeply committed to the Clawson community? Tell me what that means in a little more detail, please.
Sure, and actually we have a slide on that toward the end, but I'll try
you do?
and
Okay, no,
I'll
that's
try and
fine if you're
remember. I mean, where we operate, we partner, and maybe I'll ask you guys to flip to the second to the last slide or page, how we collaborate with our communities. And wherever we operate, in many communities where we don't operate, we have mental health partnerships with the schools in that community to provide educational resources, spot counseling for school counselors, partnering with school social workers, and so forth. A lot of the folks that we deal with are teens and kids. And so the school partnership is an important thing. So is a law enforcement partnership. A lot of times law enforcement is faced with a fork in the road between sending somebody down a criminal justice path or sending somebody down a behavioral health or mental health path. And we can help provide guidance about which one of those two is appropriate and essentially just be a resource to the law enforcement community to the extent they want us to be. There's all kinds of healthcare partnerships that we engage in, health fairs, spot counseling, offering speakers, and you know, really working with communities to provide experts, whether they're psychiatrists or counselors or social workers. And then finally, there's just the community spirit piece as well. We really like to participate in fundraisers and other kinds of community activities and really be a good neighbor and partner in the places that we operate. So this is the answer to that question.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad to see that detailed answer.
But if we can move back to this one, and I'm really mindful of the time that Ms. Steck has allotted, so I'm not going to try to go over. I'm going to try not to go over. But what it will not be, what this will not be is a hospital. What this will not be is an involuntary kind of facility. It will not be a drug treatment or rehab facility. It is mental health, not substance abuse. It will not be a long-term residential facility. Stays will be in the 1 to 2 week time frame. And it will not be a facility or a place where individuals are coming and going, where there's a lot of you know, friends and family traffic at all hours unsupervised. It'll be very, very highly regulated who comes and who goes, both during the day and especially at night. The following 6 slides are all renditions or artists' concepts of how the facility would be adapted. This is a very, I think, conservative, but I think representative picture, and you can look at the slides one after another. They just provide different angles of what we have in mind. It's very consistent with the kind of landscaped suburban feel that we bring to all of our facilities. And even though those little photos on the earlier page are kind of, they didn't print out perfectly well, you can see a lot of greenery, a lot of foliage, and a real commitment to the visual appeal of the property as well. And then past the pictures, the little house with the blue, green, and orange first, second, and third floor really just provides, and I certainly won't go through this in detail in the interest of time, but really just provides a summary of how each of the 3 floors of the property at 1145 West Maple will be used, will be utilized under our vision. You know, I think I'm going to stop there and perhaps ask you guys if you have questions. I'm happy to go back to any of the pages. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple. You said private, so tax exempt or for-profit?
We are for-profit.
So you are for-profit. And I personally don't have that much concern over coming and going. It's a hotel already. People come and go all the time.
Right. I don't
even know who's going there. They could all be mentally. I have no clue.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a hotel. Doesn't matter. But I do have a question. Has there been any conversation with the neighbors on either side? And
Not yet, although we're looking forward to that conversation. I think one of our potential neighbors is here.
yes, Susie?
And it really is, your green light is the green light for us to begin all of those conversations, not just with our neighbors,
Connections will be made.
but with the community in
I
many.
assumed. I just wondered if it had. I just
In
wondered
many
if we knew
ways.
yet if there was
This
any
is our first step.
temperature gauge.
Yes, sir.
Not quite.
What type of security are you planning on having here?
Well,
Sure, and I don't want to necessarily call it security. I think it's safety measures.
Okay.
We don't feel any of our patients are truly at risk. If we felt they were at risk, we'd be leaning on inpatient psychiatric hospitalization, or like we mentioned, the juvenile justice or criminal justice system. But we will have mental health staffing around the clock with nursing and paraprofessionals and mental health therapists.
Okay.
And that would be in the evening, to a lesser extent, but during the day, we have a pretty robust treatment team, including psychiatrists and mental health professionals, social workers, counselors, psychologists, behavioral health technicians. So it'd be a pretty extensive group that would be working during the day and lesser into the evening.
Okay.
Most of your customers, are they walk-in customers or are they sent to you from other facilities?
We get them from all sorts of referral sources, from schools often, when it comes to teens and kids, from community mental health, from private insurers, from all the different referral sources you can imagine, including sort of walk-in.
You do get the occasional walk-ins then?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And
I would say that's a lesser amount of our patient mix. A lot of scheduled appointments, pretty much scheduled intakes that either convert or develop into a potential day program admission. But at the same time, we're doing traditional outpatient services all the time. Seeing your counselor once a week, seeing your psychiatrist, having group therapy. So there's that element, but then the day program is when you need a little bit more. So we do offer walk-in as sort of an add-on service line, but it's not a huge volume of our business.
Often what happens is someone will be seeing a counselor, as any one of us might on any given day, and really go through a life event that requires them to have a higher level of care, a more intensive level of care. And that counselor, whoever he or she may be, will say, you should check out New Oakland. And then we provide for 1 to 2 weeks our PHP day program, a higher level of care.
I'm assuming this is a program that people predominantly use insurance for, as opposed to just coming in and having a fee directed towards them.
Yes, that's right. Almost all of our patients are insured. Very few just pay cash out of pocket. And that includes private insurance, Blue Cross, HAP, other insurance products that you may be familiar with, and then also public insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, and the related services, that are around public insurance as well.
did I perhaps miss your numbers, a number of employees or staff that you would have on site at times?
Oh, at this site, I would say there's probably be, during the day program, there'd probably be 20 staff. Into the evening, it'd be lesser, like 5 to 10 staff.
Okay, so about 20 employees, okay.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying that you haven't done this type of facility where you have the overnight facilities at one of your locations previously, but correct me if I'm wrong, have you seen it done by other types of providers for your service, or is this something you've just thought up now, being a brand new idea?
Well, just to clarify, we do this right now, but again, we lean on different hospitality centers.
Right.
Like at our Farmington Hills Center presently, we offer the exact same program, but we lean on the Hampton Inn and the extended stay next door when our kids and adults are traveling from like far distances.
Okay.
Or if Greg mentioned the other reasons some of our kids and families would participate because of
At a more
stable
dangerous
environment,
environment
things
not
like that.
to go to at the time.
But we have not had an in-house approach where we are actually the ones doing the evening round-the-clock night. But this is I don't want to say it's common. It is not common, but there are different groups that offer a type of residential piece.
Okay.
Have you guys proposed this in any other communities? This style where you will be the ones facilitating the hospitality portion?
No.
Okay.
Any further questions?
What's specifically appealing about this location in Clawson?
Well, our footprint, we're missing a piece of the puzzle in terms of the Oakland County region. We wanted to have a third market in the Troy Clawson area. I think with the just the fortune of the Super 8 being there, us wanting to be in Troy, it allowed us sort of an ideal situation to merge the two concepts. Okay. and service the entire region, North Oakland County, a little bit of Macomb, obviously South Oakland County as well. So.
And sorry, just to understand some of the market, I'm looking at your map geographically. So across this region that you cover, can you say a little bit more about the age brackets, the kind of demographics that might be using your spaces? Will they be coming from your other facilities primarily? I mean, I just want to drill down a little bit deeper on kind of how you're thinking about using space and how people might get to this space. If it's all voluntary, how many people have vehicles? Will we see? What is the experience like on the main roadways here?
Sure. I don't think it's going to add significantly to the traffic on Maple. But the answer is they'll be coming from all over Oakland County and even outside of Oakland County, but it'll be in the sort of diminishing concentration as you get further away, right? So really what we'll be seeing are individuals who are, being, who need our services in this kind of Birmingham, Troy, Clawson, Royal Oak center. And that's one of the reasons this is so attractive a location for us. But that doesn't mean that folks won't be coming from other locations, depending on their needs. Usually, North Oakland County is often served by our Clarkston location. You can sort of see how our map works, and our vision really is to be no more than 15 minutes by car from anywhere in the Detroit area. As we move further out into the state, that's not strictly true in Lansing, for instance, and it's not strictly going to be true in Ann Arbor when we open there later on this year. But it's part of my dad's vision is and really my brother's vision as well, is to eliminate the obstacles to people seeking care. And one of those obstacles has everything to do with transportation, proximity, trust, familiarity, really being able to have some sense, even if it's a vague sense, that these people are in my community. They're not some out-of-towners or out-of-staters or strangers to me, and that's proven very successful.
And that brings me to my second question. Just so I understand again the marketplace here, how are these individuals in this general geography of Birmingham, Troy, Clawson not being served, or who are your competitors in this space?
I mean, the answer to the service question is that mental health in general is dramatically underserved, period. Whether or not we existed, it would still be sort of underserved, and that has a lot to do with the stigma and the fear associated with seeking mental health care as opposed to care for a broken arm or care for your diabetes or whatever it may be. Our competitors, there are not, strictly speaking, direct competitors for what we do. On the more severe end, there are inpatient hospitals, like Havenwick Hospital, for instance. On the much less severe end, there are counseling centers, pure counseling centers like Oakland Psych or Advanced Counseling and others, or just individual private practice social workers, psychologists, and psychiatrists. What we occupy, and really what my dad's vision was, again, was to be in this space that occupies a serious slice of the need for behavioral health and mental health services, but not so serious that people need to be hospitalized. Because his view was, after having run a hospital in the first half of his career, that a lot of people who find themselves in psychiatric hospitals are really getting overtreated or not getting the kinds of treatment they need because they're being domiciled with very, very sick people, right? So they have serious needs, but they are not as serious as others who really, truly do need inpatient psychiatric care. So these are people who have gone through trauma or a crisis. Any one of us on any given day could be there. It's really true. But they are not the kind of individuals who require to be in a locked ward in a psychiatric hospital 24 hours a day.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sorry, if I can just continue one thread here, if you don't mind, Jim.
No, go ahead.
My final question here. I'm not in the field that you're in, and I understand this is a very complex set of clients that you're engaging with on a set of complex set of issues here. What I would love to have a sense of is recognize you mentioned you're the largest
Yes.
group of this kind. I don't know what that means in terms of excellence, and I would love to hear a little bit more about how. The work that you do for the people that you represent in terms of just treating people with respect. I just want to understand a little bit more of where you stack up in this.
Sure. I would be and probably should have, I would be happy to and should have brought some of our satisfaction survey data and I have a letter of recommendation from a developer friend of ours because we thought that would be most relevant to this group.
You have that.
That's what you have. What you don't have are the kinds of recommendation letters that we could easily provide from our customers and from our partners in healthcare, community mental health, health insurance, our partnerships with hospitals, our partnerships with other practices. But we're very, very proud of the level of care and the level of compassion that we bring to our services. You should check out our website.
One thing I'd like to jump in and say is one of the major accrediting bodies in mental health is CARF, the Commission of Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. And we've been accredited by CARF since 1991, accredited for all of the services we're speaking to: partial hospitalization, day programs, outpatient, mobile crisis services. And as part of this allows us to really work with major payers like the Community Mental Health and Health Alliance Plan, Blue Care Network, Blue Cross, and all of these major insurance companies are contracted with to do these services. So that is somewhat of a testament that major payers have been with us for so many years, because that is part of consumer satisfaction.
But we would be absolutely delighted to provide you with more of those kinds of testimonials and references.
Thank you.
Jim, you have something?
I had a question. We've discussed with this proposed expansion and how you serve the individuals. What is your staffing plan with this being a growth?
Staffing plan, do you mean how will we hire people, or?
Are you hiring people? Are you just transferring people in, or?
No, we have to.
We
have to hire.
We will have to
Okay.
hire, and in fact, it would be much to our benefit to talk with the community about ways in which we can identify individuals in Clawson and surrounding areas too.
But having said that, to your point, we would be transferring some staff that know our policies and processes to train new staff, because they have been with us many years,
That's
whether it's
right.
clinical directors, psychiatrists. So there'd be a combination of transfer plus new hire.
And one of the advantages of this being a relatively slow process, it wouldn't happen overnight, obviously, is it would give us the opportunity to staff appropriately and make sure that all that kind of training and recruitment was done in the right way.
Okay, at this point, you've talked to Super 8. You haven't bought the place yet, but you're negotiating the deal, and you basically want to know if we think you're a suitable business for the city.
Yeah, and we have Todd Hawley from Friedman, who's representing us in this matter. It was a little bit premature to get into the due diligence period with Super 8, because there are a lot of ducks we needed to get in a row for this. Plus, in terms of tying up the property, just to be frank, we weren't going to be able to get the timeline we wanted from the seller to take it off the market to work with us. So we wanted to sort of address it on the front end rather than the reverse.
Okay.
So we're one of the ducks.
You are one of the ducks.
You're the biggest. You're the biggest, most important duck.
I have not said that
I've
before.
always thought of myself.
Any other?
Are the physicians and other health workers, are they exclusive to your to New Oakland, or are they from other, like McLaren and Beaumont? I mean, how does that work?
Most are exclusive to us, but some do work at different hospitals, whether it's McLaren or Beaumont or Henry Ford Health System. But we have a lot of full-time physicians, mostly psychiatrists, nurse practitioners, social workers, psychologists.
And they would be paid directly from your facility, not
Yes.
to Beaumont if they work for Beaumont?
That's
type of
right.
thing? Okay,
That's right.
all right. That's all my questions.
And where do we stand? Greg, you said that zoning is okay with this, so there's...
Well, so you will have to make, if they're going to move forward as we interpret it, they will be a special land use for the residential component. And so you will need to make an interpretation that you agree that this is an other similar use to uses that are allowed in the BRD2 zoning district. Obviously, they presented to you a theory about that, and that is that, in fact, it is a motel now, and motels are a permitted use in that, or an allowed use at least in that district. So to the degree it's continuing to operate like a motel, according to their theory, I'm not promoting it or one way or the other, according to their theory, that would be another similar use. If you tend to agree with that, then their next step would be to apply for special land use approval for that concept, and by necessity, then also site plan review for the property.
So what you're saying is that if this isn't a stated use under the description of the whatever those, I can never remember those letters, it's not a stated use, but gee, if we'd have thought of it, we might have stated it. 'Cause it
Yeah, I mean,
fits.
in any ordinance, you can't think of everything,
Right.
right? It's desirable in your ordinance to allow for the planning commission to interpret other similar uses, to inject flexibility and be able to react to new concepts as they come along. And so you have that in the BRD2 district, and so you would be able to allow it. I would say if it were expressly called out elsewhere in the ordinance, we wouldn't tend to think that then it was appropriate here. But clearly, nothing like this has exactly been thought of, elsewhere in the ordinance.
So should we proceed with a motion to welcome them to Clawson? Is that where we're
We
heading?
got a few steps for welcoming.
One last question. Because this is a unique scenario, hotels are not, how much are you planning on changing this facility? So in the instance that you guys move on from Clawson, this building is not, undesirable to the next place?
Well, I think our renderings speak a little bit to the aesthetics. We didn't get into renderings about the interior, but again, the one page spoke to the first level being medical use, not medical use with, like a traditional primary care practice. It'd be more counseling based, so traditional office use. We would ramp up second and third floor from a residential piece because we didn't feel that we needed 20 rooms on each floor to start. So that would be gradual over time with additional sort of counseling medical office on second and third floor. So we don't feel that the space would be unusable if we were ever to move on, but we would have no intent to move on given the investment we're placing in this community, because it would be a substantial investment for our organization.
Which facility has had the longest existence out of the, you've got a picture of 9 of them here. What are some of the average times in those facilities, or what's been the longest amount of time you've been at one of those facilities?
Well, our first 2 sites were in West Bloomfield and Davisburg, Michigan, which ended up being Farmington Hills and Clarkston over time. The oldest site now is our Livonia site from a physical plant, which was, I think, about 2003. But we've had a presence in the community since my father started his private practice, because that's really what this has evolved to. New Oakland Family Centers was originally my father's private practice that started in the 80s. And it has evolved into 9 centers with a 10th administrative center with an 11th center in Ann Arbor opening in the next 4 months.
Got it.
Okay, so
Along the same lines, we're talking about the building and how much you might have to do with that. Now, just looking at the outside renderings, okay, we would have a main entrance only, no side entrances. Those would be secured more or less, based on what I've seen, because you usually have side door accesses in motels.
Yes, that's right. There will be a sort of main entrance, and this has to do with just the flow of individuals into and out of the facility. It will be different from a motel in that way, because we'll want to have careful monitoring of who's coming in, who's coming out, and sign in and that kind of stuff.
Okay, that was just kind of an
Yep.
advanced question, you might say.
Yeah.
With the building code, and you got dwelling units, even if they're temporary for 2 weeks, on the second and third floor, those egress exits will have to be remained, even though they might be secured from the outside, so.
Okay.
that'll all be handled during the planning stage further on. We gotta figure out what we want you in town first.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that you guys have explained to them that we do have a tree fetish here in Clawson, and that they
Let's
will be
not go
there. We do
expected to tree the living heck out of it, right?
We'll save
Actually, our
that for
first
Thursday.
meeting, they brought it
I
up
just had,
before us.
Glenn's not here tonight, I had to cover his
You have to
face for him.
represent.
Had to rep.
In that case, I like blue spruce.
Okay.
Consider
Let's
it
not-
done.
Let's not drift off here.
Actually, I do have one question, Greg, if you don't mind, for Greg, or for the team. If you can remind me a little bit, absent of this conversation in terms of next steps, if it comes back for site plan review or before then, when is the community notified for the development adjacent
Yeah, so the special use aspect will provide for a notice to go out to all property owners within 300 feet, and then also a notice in the paper, so there'll be a public hearing on that. They get 15 days notice of the public hearing.
Thank you.
So are you looking for a vote of confidence?
I
Do we
would
make
entertain a motion that how our panel feels, preferably in the affirmative, and then we'll do a vote on it. How's that sound?
Do we need a motion, Greg?
Well, I think they would appreciate like a consensus of the commission as to whether it's worthwhile for them to proceed with their application.
You just want to go down the line? Just say.
Or do we make a motion?
I
Should we
don't
just,
think you have to have a formal motion. I
so
think
if we
you can
start down the line?
Well, just,
Well, I think we should have something in effect saying that we have received their proposal and we're in agreement that they pursue this
just a simple
as
motion.
presented.
The minutes can reflect that too.
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah,
no
I think that sounds a little
disagreement.
too
Just a simple statement that we can agree to.
Fine, either
Right.
way. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Well, just like I said.
Okay, so,
Informal.
Well, so if the question is, do you feel like this, this use as they've described it to you, would be a similar use that could be, you're not approving it, but could be approved pursuant to that provision of the special land uses in the BRD2 zone?
Start with you, Scott.
I think this would be a good use for that existing property to move into this facility.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I think with reservations, I agree. Just out of curiosity, in terms of how the community members feel, resonate with it, design standards, a series of other things, just to make sure that I think for the work that you're doing, as well as for the community nature that we have in Clawson, how it really fits. So I'm definitely looking to understand more about the process and willing to hear that out.
I'm all for it. I think it's a wonderful idea. Obviously, we're going to have some problems down the line. We'll weed things out as we go. But if I were you, I'd go for it.
Thank you, sir.
I agree with this first step proposal.
Thank you.
I like it.
Yep, I agree. I think it's a good fit.
Thank you.
There you go. Unanimous. We all like it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good luck with it.
Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Sorry
was
we
very
took so
clear.
much time.
No, appreciate you guys.
Problem. Next item, agenda number 6, is a request for the site plan revision for 1119 West Maple Road, which is Osaka Japanese Steakhouse in the BRD2 district.
So hopefully we can get this up on the screen, but it's really pretty simple. They added at the rear of the building a loading dock, which had previously been a landscaped area, but they've just sort of moved the landscaping to either side of where the loading dock is now. Here we go. If we could zoom in, there we go. So this particular plan does not show the landscaping that's on either side of the loading dock, but we have now received from the applicant the plan that actually shows the landscaping there. So essentially, that whole area all across the rear of the restaurant was formerly landscaping. Now there's this loading dock that you see on the drawing there in the midst of it, but the landscaping is still there on either side. So they need approval of this minor, I would say, modification to their approved site plan, specifically the landscape plan. And with that, they are basically done and ready for a CO. So
Okay.
this is kind of their last step. If you find this change acceptable, ask that you approve it. I will represent to you that I now have the drawing that shows the landscaping. In my memo, I had suggested we needed a drawing that shows the landscaping. So just approve the amendment to the site plan as represented.
So Greg, you're suggesting, your recommendation would be to go ahead and move forward with this, that you don't see this being detrimental based on you understand kind of our tone with landscaping. This isn't going to affect that
Right,
negatively.
they didn't lose anything.
Okay.
They just added a service area in the midst of it.
This is strictly just to get the site plan accurate?
Accurate.
So as we move forward?
Exactly.
Okay.
As we've harped on over and over, we want
right.
the
Yep.
site plan to be the record of the property as it's supposed to look. And so in order to achieve that, we need to add the
Okay.
loading dock on there.
Well, thank you for bringing it to us in this manner. That's good. Okay, so what do you need from us? Just an approval?
Motion to
A motion?
approve the revised site plan.
I'll make a motion.
So
I'll make-
all we're doing, excuse me, is to, we're revising the site plan. We're not entering into we're not approving the site plan, we're not giving a temporary CFO, we're just changing.
You're approving the modification. I call it a revision. It's different than if they'd already finished and they were coming back later. They're still in the construction process technically right now.
Okay,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Jim.
Okay, I will make a motion that we accept the modified site plan revision for 1119 West Maple Road, which is the Osaka Japanese Steakhouse in the BRD-2 district, as presented to Greg Elliott.
Support? To include the loading dock, or no?
Yeah, that was the purpose of the
Okay.
modification.
Okay,
That was part of the modification.
good to
yes.
go. You support?
Support, yep.
I have a motion, I have support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
There we go. Good job, guys. Yeah, absolutely. So, Greg, we already, as a side question here to that they run into some issues in the front of the building, correct, with with maybe one of the ramps, was that?
They built the ramps the way they were shown on the site plan.
Okay.
There were later modifications requested as part of the engineering plan.
Yeah.
Turned out that those would not facilitate physically handicapped people getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Because the entry isn't
Yeah.
barrier-free.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I think you might have gotten a memo from the city attorney indicating
Okay.
that that the engineering required ramps were not required, and that what was shown on the site plan was
Awesome.
adequate.
So we're ready to go then.
Yes.
Yeah.
they're running.
Congratulations, you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
outstanding.
we're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is a request for a TCO and discussion of revision to the site plan for 59 Florence, which is the Fisher Agency.
So Chuck Somchina is here to put forward their request. I think they've completed most of the work other than that which is shown on his April 3rd punch list for you. So there's two things. They're requesting a TCO, weather-related TCO, to be able to complete those items that are on his list, and then he'll explain this better than I can, but when we approved the site plan, those of you who are familiar with the site know there's this sort of weird driveway that comes from the property to the south and enters onto this site, and we, recognizing that this is really kind of an interim use of that building, not the optimal use of that site, we didn't require them to put in a whole new parking lot, but what we had on the approved site plan were big planter boxes that were to be located there, and they've had difficulty finding such planter boxes, and they're proposing a concept that I think is actually better, in my opinion, a built concept on the site that is meant to block off that driveway in the fashion represented on this drawing. So Chuck will explain to you better than I can what those materials are. If you're okay with that, then what they'll have to do is bring us a revision of the site plan that represents this on the actual site plan, so that we have that for our records. It's up to you whether that would have to come back here or whether you're comfortable enough with staff checking the details when it comes in.
So we have a proper site plan on file. This is just a
This is an idea right now.
slight change to it.
If
Okay.
you
It's an
like
idea
the,
that might become an amendment similar to what we just did a minute ago.
correct.
Okay.
If you like the idea, you could approve it as an amendment, and we could actually, physically check the amendment when it's made.
Greg, can you just provide me, I should know this, but directional,
Well,
which,
I think you'd be looking south, as you were facing this, but I think that little tiny box is maybe the building, but I'm not 100% sure. So
There's some big trees.
Chuck will tell you better than I can what that's supposed to represent.
Thank you. Chuck Simchin on behalf of Fisher. Yeah, we did have the site plan approved a while ago. Work has progressed nicely, over the winter. And I know that the structure, the building itself is complete. I believe there were inspections, maybe last week. And I think Mr. Albus was happy with the structure, the building itself. It's the interior and the exterior of the building. There's new windows, there's a new roof, there's new doors, the siding has been fixed and painted, and the interior looks good. I went there today to look at the property. So we're anxious to have a temporary C of O to move in the building. If granted, they would they have office furniture ordered that will start being delivered, and hopefully on May 1st, consolidate their operations and physically move everyone into this building. And then we're asking for another 90 days to finish the work on the exterior, the landscaping, the parking lot. We estimate around $14,000 worth of work based on the estimates we've had to complete the project. We're ready to post a bond to secure the performance of the exterior work. And the one little bump in the road that the contractor ran into was for this south side of the parking lot, and this is looking south. There's that odd empty lot next to them, and it became a cut through from some adjoining parking lots. And the idea was with the site plan, was to have some physical barrier that also includes some green in it to block it physically, but also make it attractive, which we agree with 100%. And other than absurdly small planter boxes or absurdly expensive custom-made large planter boxes, the contractor wasn't finding good solutions to comply with the site plan. And last week he just had an idea, and he drew this up to intermittently build on the edge of the parking lot. He would take out, when the contractors come in to pave the parking lot, they would take out a couple feet of the edge of the parking lot and then build intermittently a black wall for a section, and then an open area where we could plant and do plantings, and then another section of black wall, and then plantings. And he thought it would look better. It would be an upgrade from the original site plan. So did we. And it would be a more practical solution to the issue on that side of the building. So we would ask you to also approve a modification or revision to the site plan, subject to whatever we need to do to submit another drawing or give an example of materials to Greg at a later date. That way we wouldn't have to come back to the planning commission.
These could be incorporated into the existing site plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chuck, are you there on to the right of the 4-foot block wall on the farthest right side? It almost looks like you're showing another long brick wall.
Well, there's a grade differential between the property on the right is a parking lot for the adjoining property.
Yeah.
And it's actually a foot or two higher than our parking lot. And that's how we just try to depict it.
Oh, that's okay. So you guys aren't planning to actually build a physical wall between those two? Okay.
There is a existing grade difference between the Eagles and their site.
Okay.
So.
This one, yeah. All right.
And I can verify that people are driving through their parking lot across the
I've witnessed it actually, so I know.
the lot.
Yeah, I think my opinion is that this is better than what we came up with before. I would like to see a little more detail with what exactly you guys are looking to put there, like for instance with the block wall, you know what I mean? Like there could a lot of different blocks that exist. So, and then also I'm not the tree expert on our panel, so the trees that are represented there, I'd like to get a second opinion to just make sure that those are in line with what we'd hoped for. But I definitely am in favor of where you're heading with this.
And what I was asking is if this is approved, can it be approved in a manner where staff could just
Administration could Approve
do the
that.
final approval, and we
Yep.
wouldn't have to come back here, and they wouldn't have to pay me, so.
Right.
So what are your guys' thoughts, staff, on this one? Because I guess what we're going to do here is suggest if we approve this, right, and give you guys the green light, we're going to kind of hold you accountable then to make sure that the materials are something
Yeah,
that
so
we would.
Chuck, would it be fair to say that this will be split face block or a decorative block? It's not going to
I'm
be
just
just.
thinking a decorative block from a
CMU.
landscaping, and I could have them come to one of your Thursday meetings and show you an example, and, you know.
I'm not positive that we need that, or your meetings, your Thursday meetings, not
Yeah,
us. Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. When they meet, he can.
And then I would just say, that that it be a suitable evergreen, of the minimum size required by the ordinance. There's minimum sizes. in
Okay.
the- in the
You
land
guys feel pretty
development
comfortable with that? I mean, that's
Yeah.
not, yeah, okay. What I don't want to do is pass the buck on to you and say, I know that we're trying to be business friendly, but then put it in your shoes, and then all of a sudden we're looking at you and saying, hey, why'd you approve that? And you're like, well, you told us to, it's fine, so I want to make sure that the decision is in the right, the people's hands that need to be.
Yeah, no, I think we know enough about what it's supposed
Okay.
to be that we'll be
Okay.
able to figure it out.
And you request for a TCO quite often, we ask for bond. You mentioned the bond earlier, that you would have no problem posting that.
Yeah, we estimated around 14,000 to
Yeah.
complete the
Okay.
project. We would post the bond, and we're asking for 90 days from, at least 90 days from May 1st to complete the landscaping and exterior.
Okay, that's something else that rather than us as a board having to go through numbers and figure this out back and forth, I think administration can handle that. They know what.
Well, they gave you a number, so
Right.
Let's just hold
we
them
don't
down.
have a reason really to question their number.
We can post a $14,000 bond, and we're looking to the last day of July to complete the outside.
Yep,
Right.
I'm good with that. Does anybody have any issues with this?
Nope.
Oh,
No
good.
issues.
Works fine with me.
Looks great.
Yeah, we'll
Great
entertain a
idea.
motion then. Anyone?
Okay,
Your master motioner tonight.
okay.
I do maybe two different ones. I do want to approve the
So the
revision to the
Site.
site plan and allow staff to review the actual modification to the approved site plan consistent with the discussion tonight. That'd be one motion.
That's a lot of verbiage there.
Oh, you
Say
got it.
what Greg
I know you
said.
got it.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the amendment to the site plan with regard to the sketch, which will be modified or finalized later, right?
The actual modification of the plan reviewed by staff.
Modification of the plan to be reviewed by the staff.
Do we need to put in there about the
For
bond?
59
That's going to be a separate
Florence.
motion.
Separate motion.
Yeah, we're getting to that part. And this is for 59 Florence.
I second.
And we're
Oh, we're not done?
Oh, the bond and
No,
the
he wants that
issue,
separate.
that's separate,
He
right?
wants that separate, so yeah. I support.
Okay.
I have a motion, support. Roll call, please.
Mr. Casera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Yes,
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
yes.
Now we need,
Yeah, there's just the TCO $14,000 bond through, what date did we say?
May
No.
1st.
We asked for the last day of
July
July.
31st.
Oh,
31st.
July 31st,
31st.
sorry.
Yeah, I was pretty close. I had August 1st here.
You can give them that extra day if you want.
Do that.
I like it.
Because he said from May 1st, which, we're agreeable. Okay, I will make the proposed motion that we issue the TCO.
Authorize the building official to issue a TCO.
Okay, authorize the building official to issue the TCO
In the amount of.
in the amount of.
Wait, sorry,
wait,
we get there. Nope, sorry, you're right.
Relax,
You're wrong.
relax.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
You're right.
And to accompany that, there will be a $14,000 bond issued. And the completion of this project will be August 1st, 2018. Do we need anything else?
Those are the essentials.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. Roll call, please.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes. Thank you for cleaning up Clawson.
Hey, thanks for your help and cooperation.
That's gonna be pretty.
Interesting meeting earlier tonight also, I must say. So,
Okay, we move on to agenda item number 8. It's a request for the site plan approval for 1330 North Crooks Road, which is Savoy Chevrolet Vehicle Staging Facility in the BRD2 district.
So as you'll recall, you previously had this before you for the question of approval of the special land use, similar sections to those we were discussing with respect to the proposal earlier, and that was approved at your prior meeting. And so now they're back for site plan approval. We did a sort of preliminary site plan review for the prior meeting as well, and so the site plan's in pretty good shape at this time. You may recall that when they were here before, they hadn't settled on a concept for stormwater management as between 3 different options that they were considering. They ultimately decided on the underground option. You can see the underground detention area represented in the shading there within the vehicle staging area in the back. And so they've been able to maximize their use of the property in that way. We had some discussion about, the amount of landscaping that would be appropriate, given that it's really not, there's not a need for interior islands like you might have otherwise had. They were strongly in favor of having evergreen trees as opposed to deciduous trees for the reason that they don't want things dropping on their new cars. And so that is what this concept represents with the landscaping around the perimeter on the south and east side. There's already a masonry screen wall on the east side as well. They provided there isn't anything on the north side for the reason that there's stormwater being handled there, but those are commercial properties on the north side of the property. They do have a number of deciduous trees they're planting up front, both around the public parking lot that's in front of the gate, and then they're adding there's an ornamental out along Crooks right now. They're adding a couple more canopy trees out front along there. We'd had some discussion about connecting the sidewalk, which they're doing. There's a sidewalk in front of the building and a sidewalk on the street, and they're making a connection along the south side of the entry drive. Jim can't quite reach it, but it's up there. Other things that, there you go, that's it. Other things that are of note, they provided a photometric plan. There was some discussion about whether any of the lighting would impact the neighborhood to the east, and the photometric plan suggests that it will not. All the new poles are of conforming height, and you can kind of see the blobs there that represent the light spread of the various fixtures that they're going to be installing back there for security purposes. But they added a little more parking that is not for vehicle staging, to have more convenient parking close to the building. So they have plenty of parking now for the use, and then they have obviously a vast amount of parking for their vehicles and staging. So we're comfortable with it. We'd asked the question, the only question we asked in the review was whether or not they intended to use the dumpster enclosure, because we didn't have any details on it. They do not intend to use it. It exists, but they don't intend to use it. They have a process for hauling their trash away themselves. And so I guess the condition would just be the same as I suggested, that if they were going to use it, then it would be made to be conforming per the standards in the land development regulations, section 341050. I think they're fine with that. They will need to go through engineering review on this for the utility work and the stormwater work, and so that will be required once you grant final site plan review here. Separate from the question of site plan approval, interestingly enough, is their desire to begin operations on the site to a limited degree. And so we'll get into that, I would say, after you make a decision on the site plan. That is the purpose for, we gave you estimates for what is in essence the totality of the site work in the packet, and then their architect also provided an explanation of their concept of how they want to begin using the building. But I would say, as with the other one, step one is we got to take action on the site plan in the first place, and then you can discuss whether it's timely to begin operations and what the conditions of that would be. Presaging that conversation, I'll just say that if you're so inclined, it will be important, in addition to our usual terms of the amount of the security and the duration, that you define the portion of the building and the level of occupancy that would be allowed, assuming again that the building official is comfortable with that.
Great. I have a question on that, because that's new territory. That's not something we're accustomed to. I've never said, hey, TCO for the front of the building, you know.
We have done it.
Okay.
Most notable example is Huffmaster, who you may recall came and reported regularly on their process as they were moving forward. But it's not normally how we operate. This is a little, it's a sort of a unique facility in that, and Jim can speak to his walk through the building. He and Susie walked through the building. The building itself and a portion of the parking lot is ready to go, right? And so what they're adding is the staging area in the back. And also, as they speak to you, I think you'll get the sense that there's a pretty short duration to their construction efforts, right? That they're going to be done pretty quick anyway.
Okay.
But they'll explain that to you.
So somebody will clarify if we need to divvy this building up and say you are able to occupy this. Someone in the next couple of minutes is going to clarify which
Yeah, I
portion
think
that
that
is?
will become clear to
Okay.
you, yes.
All right, thank you.
But you're actually saying we're taking agenda item here, number 8, and we're making 2 issues out of it. One issue being a site plan approval, and then the second issue would be talking about a TCO.
Correct. That was in our revised agenda there, too.
Yeah, that showed up at the last minute. We just got a
Right.
letter this morning from our city attorney.
Well, he after he got his revised agenda, then he took it upon himself to write that letter. I think his points are well taken, that, as I described, that if you're going to grant occupancy for a portion of the building, just define what that is and what the level of occupancy is. At the end of the day, it's the building official's decision, of course, but it should be clear that you're not authorizing carte blanche to begin operations on the site. It's pretty limited in scope.
But once again, you don't want to lump these both together under one
No,
motion.
right now
wanna split it.
right now you don't have an approved site plan, so that's step one.
That's our first step.
Right.
Okay.
So with that, unless there's other questions, I'll let them comment on.
Wait, are they commenting on on the site plan, or are they commenting on
hopefully they'll
TCO?
begin with commenting on the site plan and how fast they're going to build out the site, and then you can take action on the site plan, and we can move on to the TCO discussion, if that makes sense.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Good evening, Jack Zelazny, architect. Happy to see you all again.
Hey, Jack.
As usual, Mr. Elliott stole all my thunder.
So we stand before you striving to please the powers that be, make a gracious advancement into improving the site visually, the envelope of the building, definitely getting the site up to speed with the infrastructure, the stormwater management, the fire loop for the water for the fire suppression system that's ultimately going to go into the entire building. And of course, the staging area, which they're desperately in need of and want to move forward on. So we've worked closely with Mr. Elliott, Ms. Steck, and Mr. Albus to get them clear with what our intentions are. I think they're comfortable with it. We've worked together to increase the amount of landscaping along the back. We developed a photometric plan that actually takes the lighting away from the east property line and moves it along the north and the south property lines. Beautiful. Got a better distribution of the light spread, so that takes our concerns way away from the single-family residential area. And what I want to impress upon you is that the foot candles are very low. We look at a standard storage lot like this, staging lot like this, as a 1 to 3 foot candle. You got the hotspot blobs there that are probably 5 or 6 foot candles, but it's pretty low intensity. The poles are well below the 20-foot max. And I think our goal was to get the landscaping in so that it looks in a more mature fashion than the shorties that usually go in. So we've increased the mature heights to 10 feet.
I'm assuming residential that abuts this property, they've been notified that this is going on, and there's nobody showed up. There's been no complaints, no problems.
I defer to the administration.
When you had a special land use hearing for them, so
Right.
that was when there was a public hearing, so no one came.
Nobody's complaining.
No one's complained.
Very good.
We've gone to extra pains and concerns with our civil engineer to maintain the outflows from the screen wall. There's a series of ports through the wall, allows drainage from the backyards of the residentials into what'll be our landscape buffer there, which is probably twice the size that it needs to be.
Okay.
You're saying that you guys, you engineered in to allow that water flow to come in without disrupting?
We didn't want to compromise what's already there. Okay. We didn't want to create a floodplain on the other side of the wall, and I don't sense there's a lot of outflow, but it's there. We don't want to compromise it.
Okay.
Likewise, to the north, the engineering reviews keep talking about the erosion that's proliferating there, and we're going out of our way to set up the grades so that much of that is going to be eliminated with the site improvement work.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other further questions? Okay, we're only dealing with site plan approval at this stage. Can we have a motion to that effect?
Well, just for the clarity on that, under item number 4, this was regarding the pine trees in lieu of those canopy trees, which I wholeheartedly agree with, because I've never seen a dealership with any trees around it, because I like my cars clean too. But the applicant resistance on that, and we're going to provide evergreens along the east and south perimeters, and that's what we're showing on the site plan.
Yes, sir.
Just for the clarity.
Yes, sir.
And I do believe, just like during our last conversation, I think that we had all kind of agreed that that was probably the better move, right?
Right,
Okay.
that's right.
We did acquiesce to the ornamental trees in the front, to the canopy trees,
Thank you.
the Acer
Right.
rubrums.
Yep, that's nice.
And I guess me being the second of the tree surgeons. Okay, just wanted to clarify that, that's all.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion at this point.
Okay, so in essence, Greg, the only item is the, under this recommendation would be on the option on the dumpster enclosure, correct?
Yeah, and you should probably note that it is subject to engineering approval for those improvements under their jurisdiction.
The owner wrote a pretty interesting letter on that, which I think you all have copies of.
Don't need a dumpster.
And it was impressive, that he's been doing that for so long and in so many venues that he has. So I think it's a neat thing that maybe more business owners should think about.
Keeping the world safe from dumpsters.
Thank you. Because they never work with the doors and the enclosures.
No.
Speaking from firsthand experience, seeing them ripped to shreds on the first week of operation.
Okay, I'll make a motion then that we accept the site plan as displayed. And do you want the option on that?
Yeah, I would include that as a condition, even though they're not going to use it. If they ever want to use it, that it
Okay,
shall be in
and we
accordance
will
with
include
the
in there
land
the
development
option
regulations.
of the dumpster enclosure if used. And details shall be provided to demonstrate compliance with LDR Section 34-1050.
Then you should probably add, subject to engineering approval for items under their jurisdiction.
And then subject to engineering approval
Subject to items under their.
For items under their jurisdiction.
for under their jurisdiction.
You want to put the property address on there for clarity also?
And we were just getting to that.
I sensed it coming.
And the address is 1330 North Crooks Road, and that's in Clawson.
Yes, we checked.
I support that.
I have a motion. I have support. No changes. Roll call, please.
Ms. Prowse?
Yes.
Ms. Scripture? Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Thank you.
Then shall we move on to 8A,
Well,
which is a request
I
for
don't know if it's A or
TCO?
B, but yeah, the TCO request, I will let them explain it better than I could.
Yeah, this
I'll
was
s-
sprung on us just, I talked to Mr. Kingsup this morning, and we just got a copy of his letter today, so it's kind of a last-minute thing for us.
Apologies for that. It was a slam dunk to get in for this meeting on the entire process, and requests were made last minute, or not last minute, but to enhance the presentation here this evening. So we scrambled to get that accomplished, and I think we've addressed the issues satisfactorily, or I don't think it would be a topic. I authored a letter on behalf of the owner, and he can explain a little bit further, and I hope that he will. They have a unique situation where, and this has been in education for me as well, the commodities of vehicle staging are raw land. They need space to put cars. This is one of the reasons that they secured this space. It was in good proximity to their operation. We acknowledge that there's going to be other functions that take place in that building, but that's yet to come once they get the building renovated and the space created for those things, the computers and the processes that have to do with their sales process. The most urgent need is to get some land mass, as they've lost some of their leases of where they stage the cars. And part of that process, if that would move forward, is to have people on board at the building who monitor that process. That's pure and simple. Wouldn't be a whole lot of people, maybe not even more than 5. I took a number of 10 just because.
Okay.
We've discussed where they would be situated in the building. It would be someplace in proximity to the visual acuity of the back perimeter of the building. As an architect, I'm always concerned about life safety. That's my responsibility with my license. And so I want to get an understanding with the building official who is empowered with the same responsibilities to get a feel of the building, to make sure it's suitable for occupancy in this immediate stage. I've done that. Mr. Albus was kind enough to take a tour around it, as did Ms. Steck. It was quite toasty in there. The heating system is working, the plumbing system is working. It's habitable, But we wanted to emphasize we're not wholesale moving people in with bags and baggage. It's just to facilitate what would be functioning on the site for the vehicle staging. The owner has a set plan in mind. I've reminded him constantly that we also have work to do on the site. We have protocol for moving one operation to one part of the site, the other operation the other, as things progress for the infrastructure improvements. So I think the uniqueness here is he doesn't want to just take over and do things that he's not supposed to be doing. So we thought we'd be upfront with you all tonight to see if we could make that work as well.
Okay.
Immediate question is, what would prevent these employees from entering parts of this facility that we are not going to give you a TCO for? And then I guess the side question to that would be I wish we had more legal counsel here tonight, would be what are the liabilities and who do those liabilities fall on if an employee does go into a place that we are not issuing the TCO for and happens to have an injury?
My opinion as an architect, there's no physical separation in that building that would preclude them from roaming through the entire building, but there are no hazards in the building. I think the most immediate need would be to make sure that the existing lighting is working adequately, particularly in the shop area where the interior vehicle storage are, and that would be the principal thing that we'd want to see happen. Water's running, air conditioning and heating is working. There's no trip fall hazards. So short of a little housekeeping, getting some of the old stuff out of those, there's desks and things like that. But there's nothing that, and Mr. Albus and Ms. Steck could testify to that, but that there's going to be any issues of hazardous anything there, short of what you would encounter in any space that you walk through and find yourself tripping over by your own fault.
Okay, so the lighting quotes that we have here, that's just for aesthetics for you guys to get the lighting up to the specs that you would like it for in the facility,
lighting,
not for safety? Or
the lighting quotation that I gave you as part of those line items have to do with the exterior site lighting.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with the interior. We do have a summary quotation for all the interior upgrades, but lights are functioning in the space now.
Okay.
All the overhead doors are working with their motor operators, given their age.
Okay.
All the AC units have been examined. How my journey started with this was I did a building forensic study for the owner that was a potential buy for the building, so that he had some due diligence on his bid offer.
Okay.
So I invited subcontractors in to examine all the major mechanical systems of the building. We found nothing glaringly out of line. The building is structurally sound. Few cosmetic cracks in the masonry wall. Caulking and paint's going to take care of that.
Okay.
So we're unconcerned about somebody taking occupancy in there. Through all these rains that we've had, there hasn't been a drop of water in that building because the roof is relatively new there, and all the flashing systems are probably the best that I've ever seen.
Well, based on the quotes that you guys provided, I guess it's at least one fortune that the roof is in good shape.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I've been getting reminded about. Yeah.
Okay. So, Greg, I guess I'm slightly, just a little confused on if the items that we're waiting on are water storm lighting, exterior lighting, and paving, but we're asking to give them access to stage the vehicles, which includes lighting and paving on the facility, in the facility, like what are we exactly excluding them from having access to?
I don't completely understand, so maybe they can explain more how they're going to use the building without the new parking lot. Okay. And I think that's the question. What do you want to do with the building now? How is that going to mesh with your construction activities in the rear as those are ongoing?
It's great when you don't have people in our business explaining our business. Basically, what we need is we need access to the property, not the building. We only need the building as if somebody needed a bathroom or something like that.
Okay.
Just to be able to go in. It's not our intent to put anybody in the building.
Okay.
Okay? Right now, we have a piece of property at 990 East Maple in Troy, almost across from the Japanese. Well, that building has been sold. If you notice, they've been renovating it. It's going to be I guess it's going to be a restaurant.
Really?
That's what they claim. But we're going to lose that property. And we're very good at moving cars around. We need the property where we can at least start staging the cars while we're doing this, because it is going to, once you've approved the site plan, thank you. But now we got to start getting the contractors, and they're all busy. So now we got to get on the list, to do it. But in the meantime, I got these cars. This is the big time of year that the cars come in. Hopefully, we're going to sell them, and they're going to be gone. But we have no intent moving into the building right now. The building's good, but we can wait for that.
Okay.
And while we're doing the parking lot, we are going to sprinkle a building, right? We're going to sprinkle a building, do whatever we have to inside the building, but we're not moving people in. We're just going to get it ready to move people.
When you say sprinkle the building, do you mean provide water for the sprinkling system?
Yes.
Okay.
Fire suppression. There is none in the building.
Okay.
So you're going to move,
does the
so
term-
ideally what you want is you want the parking lot, you want to be able to put the cars there.
Yes.
Isn't that going to be tough though when you're redoing? I mean, are you going to redo right away?
Well, we have 15 acres in Troy right now. I have 2 dealerships on 15 acres. Multiple times we've redone the parking lot.
Got it. So you know how to do that then, okay.
Is it optimum? Absolutely not.
No.
But we know how to do it. And it's
That's good clarification.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So part of when we do issue the TCO, if we do that, we have to understand what your time frame is on getting some of these things done. So I know you're saying you're going to get on a list. Hopefully, with the scope of your job here, that you'll be on the top of some sort of list. But when are you anticipating having this done?
Well, we'll know more after this meeting and on Monday. But the thing is, we need to get it done as quick as we can. That's
Sure.
job one. We need the property. If this was a car, this property would be a total, because what we're investing in the property is more than what we're paying for the property.
Sure.
So we're trying to be good corporate citizens we could have put in a retention pond in the back.
Yep.
But for your benefit, for our benefit, I think it looks better and will operate better with an enclosed system.
Yeah, and we definitely appreciate that for sure.
And we're trying to do everything right, and I tell you, we're not going to move into the building.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I
what
guess-
becomes misleading to us here if you're asking for a temporary CFO. You're not occupying the building, you want to occupy the parking lot is what you, basically what you want to
Basically,
do.
yes, and if we
And
have
have a
to,
couple guys hanging out around it.
and if it's rainy, they can just step inside the building, or if they have to go to the bathroom, they can use the bathroom.
Right.
But there will be no desks, there will be no telephones, there won't be anything.
None of that goes in until the building's brought up to speed.
Exactly.
Can we even get down to the granular part of it? I'm going to ask you the question before we dictate this, but can we say that nobody that is not currently employed by Savoy Chevy would be allowed into the facility?
That would be appropriate, but
Okay.
can you explain then, with reference to the drawing, which area you want to use for staging in the interim?
Well, I would say the area just right behind the building, but it would be fluent. I mean, wherever they're going to start working, we're going to be moving cars.
Moving around,
Okay, but right now, we would just probably park them right behind the building, so they would definitely be out of sight from Crooks Road.
Okay.
And right now, as we speak, we would not be filling that whole lot, because General Motors is having problems shipping cars right now.
Okay. So
That's another issue, though.
with the TCO, we're going to ask you for a bond for the remaining work that is to be done, and I'm seeing, and I think I'm missing maybe the landscaping cost, but the water and storm, the exterior lighting, and then the paving, that comes to a substantial amount of money. That's just over $1 million. including landscaping. I'm sure that's a drop in the bucket compared to these other items. Are you prepared to be able to provide a bond that is going to be substantial enough to make us feel comfortable that if we give you access to the property to start staging these vehicles, that will be a guarantee that you'll get the other work done?
Oh, if we're all reasonable, yeah, it's gonna get done. I mean, I wouldn't have agreed to this.
Right.
If we weren't gonna do it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's Scott's question. Scott's asking, we're gonna ask you for a bond.
Yes.
And
I mean-
because it's over $1 million in work that we can see what you've given us, we're gonna ask a bond that might be, reflect that.
I've got to get it done. I mean, if you're going to tie my hands to $1 million bond, I have no other choice. I mean, I'm just asking that everybody's a little bit reasonable. I think we've been very forthcoming. Told you what we're going to do. We've worked with you, and I'm going to continue to work with you because that's the way we do stuff. And
Could we leave it to administration and our city attorney and legal people to establish the amount of the bond and make sure that it is taken care of before the issuance of a TCO?
Well, that's usually your purview.
Yeah, I would say let's take that responsibility and not put it on them.
I asked Jack to write a letter that summarized the site costs, and he summarized them as $795. Jack, is that?
775, 795, yeah. But the number for the landscaping is not taking root yet, no pun intended. But we put an allowance in from past experience, about $15,000. So that's included in those numbers that are told. The other numbers are all bid numbers from the plans that you see there that were given to the subcontractors. The water loop, the paving, you have a number from Nagel, $380,000. You've got the stormwater management as we anticipated to go in. That's a little bit nebulous right now because we still have to get through the process of engineering review for that, which is our next step.
Okay.
And it'll be a quick step because we're locked and ready to go. We were just waiting for site plan approval and anything that came up in the commentary for that. So our civil engineer's waiting and ready to move forward. That'll be our next step.
Okay. What type of time are you guys looking for on this? Because there's going to be an expiration date for the TCO.
Total improvements?
Yep.
I don't know, we would hope to get it done in 3 months. I'd probably look for 6, weather issues. The biggest thing right now that we've encountered, and it's industry-wide, we have a generation gap from the last major recession. Everybody left town.
Yep.
And the kids weren't encouraged to take up trades.
Yep.
And so we're all scrambling, finding available people. We have subcontractors who are extremely interested in this project and are willing to start moving forward. So we're blessed to have that. We want to secure a construction manager that knows his business about site improvements and then move forward on that basis.
Okay. Sorry, just a general comment. I know we started this conversation. I'm just trying to keep track of it as well, right? That we're thinking how we split the property or how we split different access to spaces. And I think I'm all caught up to speed. So it sounds like the question before us is it the TCO set at a level to cover all of the work to be done or a portion of the work done and allows for the staging? And if that's the question, my particular bent is a TCO for the whole thing. If it's on that 6-month time frame, just to keep it pretty simple and easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna suggest that we do 90 days instead of 6 months, and for a progress update. Not necessarily having everything done. I would like to see certain things done. Landscaping, I think we can all agree, like we can get in 90 days, should be able to get the landscaping plan in and put in place. I'm not the water storm person here. You guys will have to lean on that a little bit. Lighting, what are your thoughts on lighting? Can we do that in 90 days? What are your thoughts?
Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
There's a staging of function that you get the infrastructure in the ground, you get everything milled and out of the way, and then you start your finished process. Lighting is done because there's a lot of underground before the finished paving goes in.
Okay.
And then we get into the sequence of dressing it all out with the landscaping and things
Okay.
like that.
Okay, so landscaping would actually be the last part,
I would say so.
unfortunately?
yeah.
Okay,
I would say more than likely they're planting in the fall.
okay,
For this project, because they're not gonna make it in time for springtime. So
okay.
Right.
You guys are professionals in what you do. You have beautiful property. But it is in our interest to try to just keep up with that, right? So I feel comfortable, and if anybody else wants to propose something different, I would like to just make sure that we have progress on some of these things, like let's do 90 days, get you guys in there, allow you to start shuffling your cars around, start working on some of these items. And if landscaping's not in, we don't have a plan in front of us today necessarily to show like that, what the cost would be, any sort of quote for that. So that would be a good thing to show us in 90 days to make sure that we're on top of that. Water storm, these other items, if they're done, fantastic. If not, let's just see where we're at, and we're gonna have to lean on our administration to.
We've got to have that done before we can get the paving done.
Right. Okay. So I would propose 75% of the quote and 90 days for a TCO.
What's your number on the
Why do I feel like
75?
I just got sentenced to prison?
If anybody else has another suggestion, or if admin has another suggestion.
What's your?
Let me
based on the
make some
795.
comments. here.
Sure, please do.
We've had a couple other major investments in the city. Huffmaster, I think they put up $1 million for the building, or close to the 800,000.
Yep.
So their TCO was set on improvements after the fact, after the major investment.
Okay.
This property was bought cheaper, but he's planning on putting $1 million worth of investment in there.
Okay.
We also had the shopping center that was purchased by a firm. I don't know if it was in the $1 million range. They wanted TCOs, and they had about $200,000 worth of site work that they were doing. And we wanted to set a bond, and they wanted it 25, and then 50, and then I think we settled at 100,000 because we thought it was an amount they wouldn't walk away from.
Okay.
So those are the two comparable properties where we have the $1 million investments.
Okay.
So
I think-
obviously, there's different scenarios.
Sure. So
And
are you
is
making?
part of your point saying that we don't have to necessarily go to the full amount, or even maybe 75%, because we just want to get to a point where we feel like, gosh, that's enough that they've made a commitment? Is that what you're saying?
That would be under your purview. The ordinance is written, obviously, for if somebody doesn't complete the work, that we would have enough money to complete the work ourselves. Obviously,
understand.
on this big of an investment, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Well, we will
like where
also
your head's
hold
at.
the right that if we give a TCO for 90 days, if after 90 days, if work is not being done, we can pull that. So
Correct.
it's the same as the bond kind of issue. Rather than throw the money at it, you can just throw the permit at it.
Okay. I like
Greg,
that.
did you want to give a different comment?
And in one of our Thursday meetings, when we met with all the department heads, Mr. Alba said it was gonna take at least 6 months for us to get this project going.
Yeah,
So
there'll
what
be
do you
a
guys wanna do?
while
I mean,
with.
you guys want to hold us responsible to make sure we're making the right decisions up front to make it easier on you, so all the liability's not on you. So we're trying to appease that. But if you're suggesting 6 months, let us know. If that's where you guys' head's at.
Well, let me say a couple things. So, yeah, I think they're gonna be a little while longer than they anticipate with engineering.
Okay.
That just seems to be how that goes. So there's that.
Okay.
That will slow them down. In terms of Jim's suggestion, like he says, normally what we want, normally we're much farther along in the process at the point where we're being asked to grant a TCO. And what we want to do is finish it.
Okay.
And what we're having people ask permission to do is open to the public. And, we feel like at the point where they're open to the public, we're going
I
to be
see.
hard pressed to close them,
I see.
right? This is maybe a little different than that in the sense that they're not opening to the public.
Sure.
They're not really staffing up at the location or anything. They're parking cars there.
Okay.
So the bond a way to view it is that you need an amount, both that, as Jim said, is sufficient to get their attention, but then also, you know, you would not build this project with the bond if you had an empty building out there. You would not go out and
No, we wouldn't complete
pave
it.
this parking lot and put underground detention under it for somebody that wasn't gonna proceed with their project, right?
Point taken.
What you want is an amount that's sufficient to make sure you can clean up any mess and leave it in a reasonable state in light of what's transpired. And so I think it should be a significant amount, and also for the reason that we try to treat everybody the same. But likewise, their request is not exactly the same as what we normally hear.
Right.
It's not to open to the public. And so it might be reasonable to have an amount that keeps them honest, and as you suggested, a review time frame that allows for you to revisit it at a point down the road where we know better how things are proceeding.
And really, and that's all that is too, right? Even though we're saying 90 days, if you come back in 90 days and say, listen, you know, here's where we are, but we've still got another 90 days that we've got to finish this because here's what's happened, we're going to be fine with that.
We'll give them an extension at that point.
Right,
Then, yeah.
exactly. We have no problem with that. It's just that really you're going to be updating us. You're going to bring us up to date on where are you at that point. So we just know that things are progressing along and we're getting a report from you. Because those two businesses that Jim referred to and talked about, you know, we didn't give them a full bond of what they were doing. They also did exactly that. I think Huffmeister came in every meeting that we had and just gave us an update. Here's what we've gotten done. Here's where we are. And the other one, I think, committed to once a month. They came through for the shopping center and let us know. So that's how we're saying in 30 days or in 60 days, 90 days, let's try and get it straight. You'll come back in front of us and just tell us where you are. And if you say, listen, we're almost complete, that's great. We only need another month. Or you may say, listen, we're going to need 3 more months. We'll work at that point as long as we see progress.
And when you say significant bond, it doesn't have to be a factor of the 800,000 that they're showing. I mean, significant could be what, 100,000,
100,000?
200,000?
I think
That seems to be a number that kind
100,000 will seem to work out for Clawson Center.
That's what we're looking for.
Recommend 100,000.
I recommend 100,000.
There it is.
You want to wrap a motion around that?
90 days, progress update
90 days.
with 100,000. Look at that.
Look at that.
That's how we do things.
Your sentence went right down. Look at that.
No, I feel like I'm free again.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's what we're hoping for.
Okay,
Fantastic.
90-day certificate of TCO issued by
To-
administration only upon clearance of the bond issue.
I would say the TCO is to allow the property to be used for vehicle staging and for incidental staffing associated with that, not to be open to the public
Right.
in any fashion. And
Not to exceed occupancy levels as determined by the building official and fire marshal.
Well said.
He's ready.
Good.
He's got it.
Yeah, we all like that?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
and the bond
I'll
amount
second
and
that.
the expiration.
You happy with that? That work for you?
I am.
No. I mean, and just so there are no transits dropping cars off here. This is just my employees
Okay.
bringing cars in,
Okay.
taking cars off.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, so there's no activity other than us
Cars coming and going.
coming and going.
Okay, so we have that as a motion. Do we have a support for that?
I'll support.
I have a motion, I have support. Roll call, please.
Oh, I guess we got it.
Ms. Scripture?
Yeah, they
Did we?
did.
Did
got
we
the
actually?
proposal?
Hold on. I don't think we actually made the motion.
It was a
thought you
joint
made the
effort, it
motion.
sounded like.
You did.
Was a joint effort good enough?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Wow, is that
We
your
should do
first
that
one,
more
Scott?
often.
Got all the meat and
All
potatoes
you have
in
to
it.
say is what he said.
Yeah, I didn't know it was an option.
Ms. Scripture?
Right, yeah, sure, right.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Kucera?
Yes.
Mr. McHale?
Was it supported?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was.
Yes.
Ms. Prouse?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Kindness and cooperation, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
I can tell you that everybody from day one has been very cooperative. This is the best experience I've had in the municipality in a lot of years.
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
That's
Yeah,
great to
that's
hear.
really, really nice to hear. Yeah, we're excited to have you guys, by the way. I mean, it's that property is in desperate need for some TLC, and you guys are the people to do it.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Move on to Agenda item number 9, public discussion. Items not on the agenda. Anyone from the public wishing to say anything? Long pause. Seeing no public, I'm going to close the public discussion and move on to other business. Greg, Susie?
Oh, yeah, I was just waiting for my,
part of the show.
I was waiting for my mic to turn on. I'll start with the little gifts that I have for you. As you all know, Chutney's is open.
Yep.
And I think they're only open for lunch,
Oh,
but
that's so
please.
nice.
Thank you.
Check out.
Oh, they got a buffet
Chutney's.
there.
Yes.
So they went
there
I
yet?
have, I have not yet made my way to Chutney's, but oh,
Thank you.
I've heard the most amazing things.
Susie, did you say they're only open for lunch right now?
I believe they're only open for lunch.
Their sign says they open at 11:30 and then they close at 2:30, I think, and then they open up again in the evening from like 5:30 till 9 or so. They're running some
okay.
odd
They-
hours.
Lunch this week.
They have. I
wouldn't
heard the
normally.
most amazing review by one of my chamber board members this morning, as a matter of fact. So, yeah. So enjoy. He dropped those off, and I've been keeping them all for you. Right.
This is no form of bribery because they're never coming in front of us.
It is not bribery. It is a source of appreciation.
I see.
I think I
We
just
didn't
found
For
my
having
outside.
awesome people working with them. So we are passing along our good fortune.
Well, thank you.
So we also, and those of you that I printed packets for, you'll see my little note on there. You will all be getting your City of Clawson emails, if not by the end of this month, by the beginning of May. So, but let me know if you want printed copies, or should I just make, I was thinking nobody wanted them. So if just when we send out the electronic one, shoot me a quick email.
The thing I can't print is the blueprints.
The big ones? Okay.
Yeah, I won't have any capacity to print those because I work from home, so
Okay.
I've only got my little printer. These I can print out. That I can never print out.
Okay.
Okay, I have to confess, I like having the agenda because that's where I take my notes.
Okay. Well, mine too, right?
I'd like to stay with printed copies, and I'd like to at least have it here when I walk in. Like this evening, I'm sitting empty-handed,
Well, that's because I didn't
and I'm
think you wanted
blindsided,
one.
and I don't want to sit here and try to read this stuff as I'm trying to listen to them. So, yeah, I'd like hard copies here. If not, let's go back to the mailing system, get them out earlier.
Well, that's what I'm saying, just, I expected, since we have not had a hiccup with the electronic packets, and no one said anything, except for Mr. McHale, who dropped by.
You weren't here last time and I had hard copies.
So
Yes.
you guys are listening, by the way, so I'll just chime in. So it might sound like you're leaving here being like, what the heck? They said they didn't want these packets, now they want the packets?
Make up your
I
minds,
think
man.
I think the gap right now is understanding the etiquette for bringing in electronic devices. Because otherwise, not all of us have access to a printer that for, 50
Right.
pages of stuff, so.
And I know that the clerk is working on his plan is to get, now, you're not going to get this fancy, beautiful thing, but the plan is for there to be tablets up there for you. So once you get your fancy City of Clawson email addresses and we send it to your Clawson email address, you can just pop it up right there and then have all that stuff. But
Yeah, I would say in the interim, then, let's stick with
Just keep
having
with
the
the paper
copies.
packets?
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise, I didn't know, like, for me, I didn't know, should I bring in my computer? Should I,
And I was assuming, I didn't hear from anybody. So everybody's cool with electronics, so we're good. All right, paper packets. Now on to more fun stuff.
Okay.
So the last couple of weeks have been super busy with businesses that are stoked to come to Clawson. While most of these are still in the lease negotiation stages, I will tell you for certain about, we've got the building across from City Hall, 380 North Main. That is going to be, that was mine. That was from GAV and Associates have purchased that building, and they are they're an architectural and engineering firm, so they are going to be opening their second location right across the way. We also have.
380, is that the one that used to be the repair shop?
No, you're thinking 64 North Main. this is the law offices that are right there across the street.
Got it. Okay.
So
And they don't need to come in front of us then, right? Because it's not changing. Okay.
they do not. And so, but they are going to be moving in within the next month or so.
Okay.
We also have another, we've got an electrician that purchased the former Parent Heating and Cooling location over there on North Rochester. Buchanan Electric, so I still owe him a phone call, but they purchased that, and so he will be moving in.
Not coming in front of us, correct?
He is not going to be
Okay.
coming in front of us. He is, it's technically a legal non-conforming use, so he's going to be made aware of the parameters of that. So, you know, if he, if things decide to get changed, then he's going to be coming.
Okay.
He's going to be coming back and possibly going for the ZBA if he needs to. But let's see. So now we've got people that are interested in coming. We've got A&G Music. They're looking at going into the Clawson, the former Clawson skate shop next to Haberman's.
And what is that?
They are a musical instrument supply
Okay.
company. So they contract with the schools in the area for students to lease or purchase their instruments. They provide lessons, you know, the whole gamut. There is, speaking of instruments, Sacred Wave Gong Immersions. Yes, you heard this correctly. He makes gongs.
Cool.
Like,
So are they going to be right near the
Bang.
harp place, since we can have two original music forms
Yeah.
that no one else has?
They are going into the space formerly occupied by Pop Art, so 808 North Rochester, right next to Royal Oak Plumbing.
Oh, okay.
So he's making his gongs, and
Is
he
it
will
a
be.
retail store, or is it just he makes them and sends them out somewhere and nobody ever sees them?
Oh no, he also offers
Gong lessons. How did I know
gong
this was coming?
immersion therapy, sound therapy. So
Wow.
he has events.
Jim looks like he's excited about that.
It's
Oh,
very,
yeah.
it's very meditative.
But I
And
think
so,
relaxing
yes,
to the
there will be an
gongs.
opportunity for there to be a retail component for the gongs, but apparently it takes a substantial amount of time. So we will learn more about this.
Fascinating.
And when there's ribbon cutting, don't worry. He already knows we're going to be ringing the gongs.
I was going to say, someone's
Yeah,
going to
for site plan review, does it come with a gong too? Just
Well, there is no site plan review because
No,
that building
okay.
actually went through site plan review back when Pop
in
Art.
order to see the gong sooner, how do we get a site plan review?
Right.
We can arrange for you to see gongs, okay? Don't worry, George. We got you covered.
Thank
They
you.
got a website.
Do we have this down on the record? Is that we taking record on that? 'Cause she sounded pretty sure that.
She
we
knows
could
how to
see
send
these
information.
earlier.
That sounded very confident. Is that reflected on the minutes?
It looks like we also have, we've got another engineering firm that is looking to occupy a portion of the Hoffmaster building, which is what, the lower level, so that's been something that they've been talking about. We've got another group that's interested in doing sort of a digital print and marketing in Bywood Square, and then we have Billings Lawn Equipment that is looking to move into Clawson.
Wait,
So
what was that? What equipment? I'm sorry.
Billings Lawn Equipment.
Billings.
So their home in Royal Oak is going away.
And where are they looking at in Clawson?
The whole facility's
Clawson
looking,
Center.
the whole facility's looking to move.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Where are they thinking about?
They are thinking about the former ACE location at Clawson Center.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
So this is exciting stuff.
Yeah, that would be great.
So
Very cool.
that is, and there's a couple other salon type services that are also looking at us. But so that puts us up to about 11 new businesses in the last, and we'll call it 2 weeks. Nice.
Cool. Very
So,
good. Very
yeah.
good.
Fantastic.
I think that pretty much covers all the exciting stuff I have, though.
Jim, what is on your mind, sir?
Pizza gone.
Now to the business side. Just giving you guys a heads up, next week, Two Screws Loose, Larry Farida, off the Wagon Wine Shop. Dozer Cycle is moving out of there, and Larry is going to be reactivating that special use approved site for the car dealer, the motorcycle dealership. He's going to have cars there. Get rid of some of the problems that we had with the outdoor storage and the trailers and stuff. That'll be going in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals next week.
So technically, it's a substitution of a non-conforming use. The way Dozer went into that space was they went before the ZBA, and the ZBA allowed them to relocate their non-conforming use in that space. And so he's going to substitute for that non-conforming use, which is within the purview of ZBA. So,
Which I think I've already told them I'll be out of town, so.
oh, you're going to miss it.
I will miss the fun.
Okay.
Our next planning commission meeting, we are going to have a show cause hearing for the 246 West 14 Mile Fantastic Sam's. The entire shopping center went through site plan approval. We had a zoning variance on the sign, and so we're bringing the owner of the property back to see, to make sure things are proceeding as they had promised.
We never issued a bond on that?
No. So that's.
You sent them out, and you never provided.
Never followed up, okay. So
We're talking about the actual property owner, not the,
Right.
not Fantastic Sam's.
Correct.
we'll show cause him at our next meeting.
But wait, time out on that. I mean, not that I won't be here, but the punishment would be on Fantastic Sam's, not the
Yeah.
building owner, right?
No, it's his, he's the one who requested site plan approval. He's the one who requested a TCO, to allow his tenant to move in there. It's on him.
I understand it's on him, but the person that's gonna get shut down is Fantastic Sam's.
Well, if that was the route we went, right? So in the show cause hearing, theoretically, you are entitled to sanction the party who is responsible for not having complied with the site plan approval in a variety of ways.
Okay.
Can we be privy to those variety of ways before we get in front of him then? Because that is an interesting dynamic for us to make a decision.
Yeah, we'll give you a memo. I don't know that the ordinance actually defines it, but we'll give you some ideas.
Okay.
And, this is sort of a novel procedure that you have in your land development regulations, but,
Okay.
it is very, very much the property owner's responsibility. And any zoning violation is always the property
Sure,
owner's
sure.
responsibility.
Just understanding how to navigate that best from a, taking action standpoint would be,
It would just be nice to have options.
yeah. All right.
Coming from
Jim?
in there.
Also, here are the drawings that Osaka was talking about. They dropped it off. I haven't reviewed them yet. They are ductwork away from getting a full C of O for the building, so. Their hibachi grills are supposed to duct into the room. Now they duct through the floor, and they gotta run the ductwork outside the building, so they are literally a ductwork away, so.
That's great.
Okay. Today I met with a landscape company to clean up the two sites. 172 West 14 Mile, Blue Moon Bar and Grill, and 331 North Main Atomic Chicken site.
Well, thank you for doing that. Question on that is, who's paying, does the city pay for that, or how are we?
I get the bill,
Okay.
and then we pay the bill. I put it as a tax lien on the property with my administrative cost above and beyond that.
Thank you for taking care of that. Those are, well needed some TLC.
And then Haberman Fabrics, I issued the TCO, completion of all site plan requirements of the March 13, 2018 PC meeting, the alterations to the bond that were brought up in a memo and illustrated by the board members at the last meeting. Hasn't been completed yet. As soon as I get those alterations, I'll get them to the owner of the property, and hopefully we'll just get a new cleaned up bond.
Okay.
So.
All
Any
right.
other questions?
Well, I have you there, Jim. I don't have notes from my past meetings. Western Global, we gave them some time to remove the containers. I don't recall how much we gave them.
I made a copy of those minutes. I believe it was the end of June that they were procuring a different site and then moving all the containers off of our site.
Yeah, I believe he said that they were closing, they're in the process of closing on the property, and they should be closed by the end of June, and then they would be moved into their new facility within the first 2-3 weeks of July.
Okay, I just lost the date on that one. Another question is the church on Clawson. What are we doing about them? We talked about show causing them because they don't have they're not really permitted to be in there, right?
They also don't have a site plan, which is kind
Yeah,
of,
they
they
seem to
can't
be-
comply with the site plan that they don't have.
They seem to be lacking a lot of things, so,
Yeah, well, a CO principal among them. We had a meeting scheduled. There's never a problem getting them to come in and meet. They're always very cooperative about that. The problem is, with them having anybody to do anything. We had a meeting scheduled that got canceled for some reason. I don't recall exactly why. I guess the city attorney couldn't attend the meeting or something like that.
I'm sorry, who is it we're talking about right now? Because I
Church of Clawson.
Church of Clawson, got it.
the old American Legion. Yeah, if we could see some of a movement on that.
Okay, yeah, we got a step closer, but we didn't complete the process, so we'll have to, as a team, find out exactly where we're at and the next steps, which was probably rescheduling the meeting.
Okay, and then one other issue I found, traffic digital agency that we moved in down here on Main Street. Apparently they've got 15 or 20 employees in there, and I'm hearing rumors that they're parking cars all over the lots and taking up spaces. Have you heard any problems about that?
I heard problems with the parking and traffic, and
Traffic digital, it's on the end of the, it's on the end of the Mammoose Mall that we worked on.
110 South Main.
Yeah.
And I've heard the same rumors you did. We've been in contact with the owner, specifically for the screening wall issue that still needs to be addressed, and the parking issue. So hopefully that'll be resolved. They're actually using the city parking lot that is behind Ted's.
Yeah.
So it's public parking, so it might be an issue. I believe a lot of their employees, they said, were riding bikes and stuff when they.
That's what they said originally, yeah, and apparently that's not panning out that way. Don't we have, before we moved them in there, didn't we ask how many employees and they have to have parking?
Yeah, it's not based on employees though, right?
Square footage?
It's based on square footage, and it was compliant with respect to the amount of off-street parking required.
And that's the type of decision that we're faced with, right? When we come into these, like, special uses or whatnot, allowing them to come in, we have to understand, and those are the questions we should be asking. Are you gonna have?
But
we did ask.
I know, I'm just saying, yeah, so.
They're a
yeah.
permitted use, it's office use, right, so it's permitted by right. They went
Yeah.
through site plan review, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
demonstrated that they had the amount of parking required by the
Right.
ordinance.
And just for the record, I meant us up here. So you got, because it conforms to everything that you guys need it to. So that's why we have this review process, is to ask those types of questions.
So long as they're not causing a problem with their neighbors, they're blocking up parking spaces that can be used for other businesses in the place.
I'm hoping when the weather breaks, July 4th or something like that, that it'll be warm enough that they start riding their bikes.
They'll start using the $1,500 bicycle rack they're putting in, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But
anything
yeah,
else?
I don't have a good answer at this point in time with the parking problem.
Okay, I just keep an eye out then. Anything else?
All right, I'm making an announcement. I'm actually moving to Denver. So, yep. So this will be probably my last meeting.
Is that a good thing?
Drop off the board.
Good
just
new
to go to
job?
Denver. You can just come every other Tuesday.
Well, I didn't know that was an option, so now that I know it's an option, so there we go.
Really, this is the last meeting, huh?
I may be back for the 2 weeks from now, but I can't promise. So, just would just want to say thanks. It's been awesome working with you guys, and yeah, we're on the up and up, so keep doing what you guys do.
Likewise, thank you for your efforts.
Absolutely.
Good luck in Denver.
Thank you.
Have fun.
He got to make a motion on his last day, too.
Yeah.
Oh, look
Maybe
at
that
that.
was
Yeah,
on the
we did
bucket
the
list.
hybrid. Yeah, that's for sure. All right.
Anything from anybody else?
Want to thank our television audience for tuning in, and have a great week.
And a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion, support, roll call, please.
There it is.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Kucera,
Yes.
Mr. McHale,
Yes.
Ms. Proust, Ms. Scripture.
Yes.
Salesforce plug.
Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, everyone.
I will not be here, huh?